Hello, I'm Glenn Corbett from Teagasc, Galway, and I'm here today with Kenneth Keavey, owner of Green Earth Organics in Corndulla, County Galway. We're in a field of kale that Kenneth is growing here, and it's part of nearly 40 acres of field veg that Kenneth grows on an annual basis. So Kenneth, when did this field of kale go in here?
So Glenn, yeah, thanks a million. So this field here, it's kind of at the end of its tenure now. It went into the ground probably middle of May last year, and we took the decision in the last few years not to raise any of our own plants directly here on the farm, and that's been actually quite a good thing, because there's now for the first time an organic plant raiser in Ireland, John Kale, and he's based in Dublin, so he raises all our plants. So we buy the seed, he raises the plants, because it's a specialised kind of thing. We get them delivered here, and then we transplant them in with a machine. So all these plants here probably went in a couple of hours, I'd say, with a transplanting machine that we have up in the packing shed there, and we get another few weeks of harvest, and then we let them go to flower, and the beehives you'll be seeing later, the bees will come up here. It'll be the first food they have of the season, and it's a lovely sight to see actually when it's alive with bees, which it will be in about 3-4 weeks.
Very good. So the kale we're looking at here, it's brassica from the brassica family. It looks very similar to Brussels sprouts, and also in the brassica family I have broccoli and cabbages and stuff. So I'm just wondering, Kenneth, just give us a flavour of the other field crops you grow around the year.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it was a funny thing when we started off, Glenn. We decided we'd grow things that we could grow. So we grow a lot of swede, if you're using the right word. Everybody else calls them turnip, but the correct term is swede. We grow loads of swede, but then we discovered that there isn't actually a big demand for swede. People don't want it, like they don't want cabbage anymore. It's a strange thing, and even though they're really good Irish seasonal vegetables, if you can't sell them, there's no point in growing them. Kale was a lifesaver, made famous by Beyoncé in the days when she had it on her t-shirt and she was into kale smoothies, and she actually saved the lives of a lot of organic farmers by making kale popular in the eyes of the consumer. So we grow a lot of kale and we sell a lot of kale, which is great. We do lots of other field veg. We do quite a lot of parsnips, again a high value crop, grows well in the Irish climate, especially in the west of Ireland. We grow our own carrots, our own parsnips. We grow a whole pile of the different brassicas, as you've highlighted there. But then we do things that are slightly unusual as well, like celeriac is a crop that we've come back into now, which has seen a resurgence in popularity. We do a lot of celery. We do an awful lot of outdoor salads and lettuces as well. In the summertime we'd have a lot of courgettes. So there's a whole pile of different vegetables going on, but brassicas make up a big part of our rotation, and so I'm delighted. Thank you, Beyoncé. Yeah.
Great. I'm just wondering, say, in terms of your brassicas and your other field veg, what inputs, fertilizer inputs, do they require? Is it at the start of their growing cycle, or is it during the season, or what's the situation with that?
Okay, so inputs is a big thing, I suppose, and if you don't get the inputs right, especially with vegetables, you get a poor crop, you get a poor yield, it's more prone to disease. And I know, like we were talking about earlier, like this kale is still disease free, and we're in March here at the moment, so the reason it's disease free is because the soil was in good shape. It's come out of a 2-year rotation under red clover and grass, so it was in really, really good shape. Then we applied chicken manure, about 1.5 tons to the acre last year of pelleted chicken manure. We also used ground rock phosphate and sulfate of potash. So these are kind of the key things, and today, just by the virtue of you being here, we're doing our soil samples for soil testing. So we do soil testing every year. So there's a bit of a science and there's a bit of an art to it. But the main reason this kale is still in good shape is, the soil was in good shape from the beginning, but then our spraying regime and our feeding regime every 10 days through the winter means that there is no fungus on it, there is no bacterial soft rot on it. It's still a healthy plant, and it's quite a thing considering in the west of Ireland the damp, wet conditions that are prone to allow fungal disease to spread, that we don't have that problem. So if you get it right, sometimes you get it right and you get a good crop, but it doesn't just happen by accident.
Very good. My last question while we're in the field here, Kenneth, is just in terms of, you mentioned pests there, and we've seen you use a lot of netting. Just tell us a small bit about the netting and what pests it keeps away.
So it's funny because we get asked about the pest question a lot, and say from a gardening perspective, people are always asking us, how do you keep snails or slugs away from your plants? And we never have a problem with snails or slugs, or rarely. The main problem may be on our Brussels sprouts in the winter, and it's funny to see a slug creep all the way up a Brussels sprout plant to eat the sprouts at the top of the plant, but they do. Our main pest here, if you want to call it that, is the pigeon. So the pigeon here is the guy that does the most damage, and because we grow a lot of brassicas, if we didn't have some means of keeping the pigeons away, we wouldn't be able to do it. So like we were just chatting about there, Glenn, earlier, we've invested last year in a new machine and a lot of new netting. So we keep the pigeon off our brassicas by having netting on there, and that keeps him away, and that keeps our crops safe. He also keeps away the white butterfly. So the green caterpillar can do an awful lot of damage to your cabbage and your broccoli. And it isn't even that they do an awful lot of damage, but the poo they leave behind from a customer's perspective, not pleasant, you know. Aphids don't tend to be a major issue for us, and we never have to spray for them or anything like that, so that's really good, you know. Whereas in conventional farming, you're always having to deal with these pests, you're always applying chemicals to kill them. We just don't have the problem.